Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD 1111.NET Framework with Web Databases class for the fall 2019 semester, I've been creating a series of video presentations for the textbook that will be used for this class. That textbook is Pro ASP.NET MVC 5, as you can see right here. It's an A-Press text by Adam Freeman. And I am up to Chapter 21 of 27. Chapter 21, which starts on page 587, is on helper methods. And as the author mentions in this chapter, we look at helper methods, which allow you to package up chunks of code and markup so they can be reused throughout an MVC application. You start by showing how to create your own helper methods, and the MVC framework has a wide range of built-in helper methods, which are discussed in this chapter and also chapters 22 and 23. So, as the author says, the first thing that he's going to do here is, as always, prepare an example project. So, let's create a new project. It will be an ASP.NET web app. It's on the desktop. It is called Helper Methods. That's what I was checking for here, was the name. And we'll call this Chapter 21 as far as the solution name. Alright, and create empty MVC folder structure, create. And according to the bottom of page 587, the first thing we're supposed to do is to come in and add under controllers, that too. Right mouse click, add controller, empty, and it will be a home controller. There it is. We're immediately going to change the text in here. You'll notice that we have a couple string arrays, one called fruits, which is going to hold apple, orange, and pear, one called cities, which will hold New York, London, and Paris. We're going to get our typical error message here because we haven't copied everything over yet. Alright, so that's all of it. And the author says here, in the index method, we pass a pair of string arrays to a view via the view bag and set the model object to be a string. We have to create a view under our home folder called index.cshtml, and the contents of that view are shown on page 588. So let's bring that up. There it is. Let me shrink this down a little bit. Grab all of it here. Whoops. All right, there that is. We want the start URL. We've done this in virtually every project before. So project, help method properties rather, web, specific page. Okay, that's done. Here is our CSHTML file for index, and here's our home controller. And let's save everything. There we go. We can see how the view is rendered by starting the application. The default routing configuration will map the root URL automatically, so we should see this. Let's take a look. Again, File, Save All, and let's run this. There it is. Here's the fruits in bold. Here are the cities in bold. Here is the message. Okay, there it is. And as the author says next here, I'm going to follow the pattern I've established over the last few chapters and introduce you to helper methods by creating our own implementation. All right, in the sections that follow, we'll see two different techniques for doing so. The simplest kind of helper method is an inline method. We can create it through a simple example. All right, so we can go into the index file and use the helper tag, which is right here, and hopefully you'll find this interesting. Now, I didn't keep the run that we had up here before, but let's do a file, save all, and let's run the program again. And as you can see, that should look pretty familiar to you because it looks the same as the first time we ran the program. So, inline helpers have names and parameters similar to regular C# methods. In the example, we defined a helper method called list array items, right here. And it takes a string array as a parameter. Although the inline helper looks like a method, there is no return value. The contents are processed and put into the response to the client. So in other words, when we called this right here, it went into here and it said, loop through everything in the cities array. I'm sorry, in the fruits array. Then loop through everything in the cities array. All right. So notice the body of an inline helper follows the same syntax as the rest of the Razor view. Literal strings are regarded as static or unchanging, or I shouldn't even say that. Literal strings, I guess they are. HTML and statements that require processing by Razor must be prefixed with the @ sign. The helper example here mixes static, HTML, and Razor tags, and we've been doing this all along. It allows us to enumerate or step through the items in the array, and again, the output is the same as the original, but we have reduced the amount of duplication in the view. That's one thing. We've standardized. So we could conceivably pass all sorts of arrays of strings into this. All right. So the benefit, as it says, if we want to change the way the array contents are displayed, we only have to change it in one place. So if we come in here and we make this change, don't want those dots. So what's different? Well, notice, looks now like we've got it into a list. Helper contents cannot be nested. Well, something's screwed up here. I don't think I need this. And is that it? There we go. And we can move this over. All right. So the author says we only had to make the change in one place. And before we look at their results, let's look at them ourselves. So save all. Let's run it. And while it gets ready, let's see if indeed it looks like this. And you can see that it does. All right. creating an external helper method, which gets us to the bottom of page 591, or the bottom half. Inline helpers are convenient, but they can only be used from the view in which they're declared. If they're too complex, they can make the view hard to read. The alternative, and what you'd probably use more often, would be an external HTML helper method. As it says, it's expressed as a C# extension method. I look at an extension method quite often. If you use an extension method, an extension method allows you to add methods to either existing built-in C# classes that either Microsoft created or other people created that you don't directly have access to the source to change it. Okay? So it says the alternative again is an external method expressed as a C# extension method. External helper methods can be used more widely, but they're more awkward to write as C# doesn't naturally handle HTML element generation elegantly. So we're to add an infrastructure folder, and this should be familiar to you because we've done this many, many times. And in that infrastructure folder, we are to come in and add a new class, and that new class is called customhelpers.cs. Oops, that wasn't right. Now, as the author says here, the helper method that was created performs the same function as the inline helper. Think about, one thing I like, at least so far, about this chapter is you can actually see real-world ramifications here. All right? In other words, this is the kind of thing that you could conceivably use over and over again in different files. All right? That makes sense. The first parameter to the helper method is an HTML helper object, prefixed with the this keyword. It tells the C# compiler that we're defining an extension method. The helper provides access to information that can be useful when creating content, and they show you some examples right here. All right, the view context property, it says, is the most useful when you want to create content that adapts to the request being processed. So this right here gives you access to this right here. The information you get about the request is fairly comprehensive, but for the most part, helper methods are simple and used to keep formatting consistent. Standardized, consistent, whatever you want to say, this is the key. You can use these built-in helper methods for generating request-specific content, and you can use partial views or child actions for more complex tasks. All right? As the author says here, we do not need any information about the request in the example helper, but we do need to construct some HTML elements. The easiest way to create HTML in a helper method is to use the tag builder class, which allows you to build up HTML strings without needing to deal with all the escaping of the special characters. The author creates the tag builder instance, passes in the name of the element to be constructed as the constructor parameter. the most useful tag builder class members are shown here on the middle of page 593. The result, as it says, of the helper method is an MVC HTML string object, that which the contents are written directly into the response of the client. All right, I think this is a nice place to stop. I'm on the bottom of page 593, and we'll pick it up there in the next lesson.